When Luis accompanied me for a prenatal checkup, he received another call from his first love. As always, he left me alone in the cold, empty hallway. But this time, I didn't cry. I calmly took the report and walked into the operating room. Later, I saw what his first love had posted on her Moments feed. So, in the end, I am the most important to you. The photo showed Luis gently wiping her forehead. His eyes filled with a tenderness I had never known. From that day on, no matter what excuse Luis gave to be with her, I just smiled and let it pass. Until my birthday, when his first love showed up at our doorstep. Luis, eyes red with emotion, clutched my hand and asked, "Alicia, is your heart made of stone? Why won't you look at me?" Chapter 1. I endured the stabbing pain in my abdomen and watched Luis smile gently as he answered a call from his first love. When he hung up, he gave the same excuse as always. "Alicia, something urgent came up at the office. I can't stay. Call a cab after your checkup." He didn't even look back as he walked out the door. In the past, I would have clung to his arm, begging him to stay. But not this time. This time, I didn't cry. I stared at the word "threatened miscarriage" on the checkup sheet, forced back my tears, and walked into the operating room alone. I can't even remember how many times Luis has left me like this, but it doesn't matter anymore. After the procedure, I returned home. My body was weak and in pain, curled up under the blanket. The entire afternoon passed without a single message or call from Luis. It seemed he felt no need to worry. After all, I'd always gone through prenatal checkups alone. The pain kept me from falling asleep. I opened my phone and saw a new post from Luis's first love on her Moments feed. "So I am the most important to you." Attached was a photo, Luis gently wiping her forehead, eyes filled with tenderness I had never seen. I smiled faintly, set my phone aside, and finally fell asleep. When Luis came home, I vaguely opened my eyes. I saw his broad back standing by the door, turned over, and went back to sleep. The last thing I heard was, "Why are you asleep so early?" The next morning, the sun was already bright. Because of my condition, I didn't make Luis his usual breakfast. Noticing the silence, Luis seemed a bit uneasy. Maybe it was guilt. A guilty conscience will twitch, after all. But he still spoke first. "Are you mad about yesterday? You know Selena's health has never been good. We grew up together. She was sick and had no one else. I couldn't leave her alone." My tone was flat. "I understand. You don't need to explain. But you are mad." "Alicia, there's no need to be like this. I'm not mad. Selena's all alone. I'm the only one she can count on. Can you stop making such a big deal out of it?" I said I'm not mad. How many times do I have to say it? My voice grew sharp, not from anger, but from being misunderstood. But my expression was calm, serious. "I really am not." I turned over, lay back down, and closed my eyes. I didn't look at Luis again, but even so, I could still feel his eyes on me, watching, until his phone rang again. Chapter 2. The iron door slammed shut again behind Luis. But I didn't care anymore. I needed to recover and go do what I had always wanted. I had already submitted my application to the photography company for a Silk Road documentary shoot. During the 3 years I was married to Luis, I gave up so many things I loved, especially photography. My best friend used to try and persuade me. The Silk Road is every photographer's dream. It's a milestone project. Isn't it a shame to give it up for Luis? Back then, I just smiled and shook my head. It's mutual love. For us, everything is worth it. Looking back now, I must have been blinded by love. The company replied quickly, before officially accepting me. They cautiously asked, "This is a long-term field shoot along the Silk Road. It may take 2 years, or longer if it goes well. Would you need to discuss it with your family first?" I smiled faintly. No need. Before, every time I got invited for a long-term shoot, I rejected it instantly, afraid that being apart from Luis for too long would hurt our relationship. So I gave up every time. But this time, I was different. As soon as my body recovered, I'd head straight for the shoot. The decision alone made me feel better. I immediately shared the news with my best friend, Fiona. She was shocked. "Wait, You gave up love for your dream? Am I dreaming? Her words made guilt rise in my heart. Back then, Fiona had pulled every string she could to help me qualify for an international photo competition, but I gave up that chance for Luis. Thinking about it, I suddenly couldn't help but hug her tight. I mean it. This time, I won't sacrifice myself for love again. Fiona smiled genuinely, happy for me, but then, her gaze dropped to my belly. What about the baby? You're still pregnant. You know. I held back the sting in my nose. Threatened miscarriage. The baby's gone. Tears immediately fell from her eyes. In that moment, I no longer wanted to hold back my own emotions either. I threw my arms around Fiona and cried with everything I had. We talked until the evening. After dinner, we wandered around the mall nearby before heading home. The house was as dark as usual. What was different, though, was Luis sitting silently on the sofa, clearly restless and uneasy. I ignored him, assuming his anxiety had nothing to do with me. I walked straight to the bedroom. Suddenly, Luis grabbed my arm. Where have you been this late? I tried to shake off his grip. Just went for a walk. But he didn't let go. Alicia, don't forget, you're still pregnant. What if something happened to you out there? What about the baby? I finally pulled away, keeping my tone calm. Got it. I won't do it again. He grew agitated again. What do I have to do for you to believe that there's nothing between me and Selena? She's just a friend. She's sick. What? Am I supposed to just leave her alone in the hospital with no one? Alicia, please don't be like this, okay? I was at a loss for how to respond, but even that didn't stir much inside me. I remained calm. Luis, I've told you already, I don't misunderstand anything between you and Selena. I truly believe you two are just friends. I said it sincerely, but Luis still wasn't satisfied. You think I don't know what you're really thinking? Don't lump me into your assumptions. Selena is nothing like that. She's gentle and considerate. Always has been. She never bothers others unless it's necessary. If I hadn't noticed something was wrong, she wouldn't have even asked for help. Alicia, can't you be a little more understanding? Selena is a good person. I had no words. I didn't even know how to express what I felt anymore. In the end, I simply smiled and nodded. Okay, got it. My voice was so gentle, so calm, no trace of irritation. Seeing I truly wasn't reacting, Luis finally let go of my arm. Then he noticed the shopping bag I was holding. He grinned confidently. What did you buy for me this time? I just knew it. You always bring something back for me. He reached for the bag. I pulled it away. Sorry. There's nothing for you in here. Just some things I needed. If you need something, maybe shop online. His expression darkened immediately. Without another word, I walked into the bedroom. Luis stood frozen in place. About 10 minutes later, I heard the door to the guest room slam shut. Chapter 3. I was deep asleep when suddenly, Luis kicked the door open. The lights in the room were off, so I couldn't see his expression clearly. But judging by the force of his kick, it was obvious he was done pretending. It's 10 o'clock already. You're not even going to ask if I've eaten? I stretched lazily and muttered a careless "oh." That single word set him off again. Alicia, what is your deal? It's just a small thing. Do you have to make such a fuss? How long are you planning to keep freezing me out? I couldn't help but scoff. He still thought I was sulking? Still thought I was making a mountain out of a molehill? Still felt not an ounce of guilt for the things he'd done? I didn't expect him to feel guilty anyway. All I wanted now was to take care of my own health. So I smiled at him and replied lightly, I'm not doing anything. That only made him more frustrated. You're clearly giving me the cold shoulder. Ever since that thing with Selena, you've had a problem with me. You won't smile at me, won't talk to me, not even a basic concern. Yes, I used to follow him around like a little tail. After work, I'd make him warm tea. Before work, I'd fix his tie and straighten his collar. Even before bed, I'd bring him a basin of warm water to soak his feet. I smiled at him all the time, non-stop. And how did he respond? Alicia, can you stop hovering around me like a nanny? I need my own space. Some peace and quiet. Alicia, don't you get tired? Can you not smile like a fool all the time? It makes my skin crawl. Alicia, you're constantly sticking to me like some clingy bug. It's really annoying. To shut him up, I casually pulled out my phone and ordered him some takeout. Unlike before, I didn't bother checking the reviews or choosing his favorite. I just picked the first place that was open and could deliver fast. As long as it kept him from nagging me, that was enough. When the food arrived, Luis still looked pissed, but hunger always wins. As he began eating, I took the chance to go right back to sleep. Through the haze of half sleep, I thought I heard the pop of a beer can opening. Luis never drank. Chapter 4. When I woke up, the living room was a mess. I counted the beer bottles on the floor, far more than Luis could normally handle. But he wasn't there. Maybe my sudden indifference made him uncomfortable. So he ran away from home. I didn't care. I focused on preparing the equipment I'd need for the Silk Road shoot. My old gear was outdated. I needed new tools. For several days, I immersed myself in research and planning. I didn't think about Luis, not even once, until he called. Seeing his name flashing on the screen, I answered calmly. His voice was unusually hoarse. Alicia, this year, for your birthday, let me take you to the beach. We'll light fireworks, okay? To be honest, I was a little surprised, because in previous years, Luis always sent me designer bags as a substitute. Even when I begged him with a soft voice, Luis, just stay with me this year. Birthdays only come once a year. It would mean the world to me, please? He was never moved, only gave me surface-level tenderness. Work's too busy. It's just a birthday. No need to make a big deal. A gift is a blessing. Buy whatever you want. I can't just leave work for your birthday, okay? Be good. Though it made me feel small, I always forgave him, again and again. To him, my birthday was just a normal day. I said nothing, so Luis pressed on, his voice filled with urgency. Alicia, please, let me spend your birthday with you this time, properly, okay? I looked at the pile of Silk Road documents on the table. That trip was coming soon. This might be the last time we'd ever spend together, a proper goodbye. So I said yes. That day, Luis came home early. He brought bags and boxes of things. For the first time ever, he didn't ask me to help. He packed everything into the trunk himself. We barely spoke on the drive, but I could feel his gaze glancing at me from time to time. When we got to the beach, Luis took off his jacket and draped it over me. It's windy. Don't catch a cold. I didn't refuse. The sea breeze really was chilly. I wasn't wearing much. If I got sick, the Silk Road shoot would be delayed. Then, for the first time, I watched Luis set up a tent. We'd traveled together before, but I always did that part. He just stood by, taking pictures of the scenery, even though I didn't know how to do it. I couldn't bear to let him lift a finger. I followed the tutorials online, installing and uninstalling over and over again. I even cut my hand a few times. But Luis would always make a joke of it. You can't even follow a video? You're hopelessly clumsy. I used to think he was the type who couldn't do these things either, a typical workaholic. But later, I saw the picture Selena posted on her feed, beautiful scenery, and Luis carefully setting up a tent and preparing food for her. It was then I realized his abilities went far beyond work. It's just that love, if not shared equally, loses all its strength. Alicia. Luis suddenly spoke. What have you been up to these days? Have you missed me? I was at a loss for words. I couldn't bring myself to respond directly, so I smiled and played along. The usual things, but I left out the part about missing him, deliberately. Luis paused what he was doing and turned to look at me. You look thinner. That was something I used to say to him all the time. He rarely noticed changes in my appearance. His concern always went to Selena. Selena always loses weight when she's sick. She's already so fragile. Why does fate have to pick on her? Why can't this illness target someone else instead? Your body is way stronger than hers. She's always been frail and sickly. If only she had half your strength, I wouldn't have to worry so much. Every time I heard him say those things, it stung like acid in my chest. We fought over it more than once, but Luis would always turn it around, accusing me of lacking empathy, of being jealous, of being a petty, bitter woman. How could I be so cruel to someone as fragile as Selena? Because I cared about Luis. I feared that every argument would lead to more neglect, more cold shoulders, and more of his concern going to her. So I always gave in. I'd try to make it up to him, begging him not to be mad at me, but it was all those concessions that taught Luis I didn't matter. I forced a smile. Maybe my digestion's been a bit off lately. Chapter 5. Halfway through the birthday, Luis hadn't even set off the fireworks. When Selena called, he didn't hesitate. He answered instantly. I stood there in the cold wind, watching him. I'd lost count of how many times I'd witnessed the scene, and every single time, the result was the same. This time was no different. My birthday ended the moment he finished pitching the tent. Why? Because Selena wasn't feeling well, and she was standing at our front door. Luis gave the same tired explanation. Alicia, I'm sorry. Selena really isn't feeling well. I promise. Just this once. I'll make it up to you tomorrow. I remained calm. It's okay. It doesn't really matter. You should go take care of her. Don't be mad, okay? I swear. Just this once. Why would I be? Go do what you need to do. My indifference made Luis uneasy, but what probably unsettled him even more was Selena. The moment the car stopped, he jumped out like a man possessed and ran straight into the apartment building. I had no expectations of Luis anymore. Naturally, I wasn't fazed by this kind of scene either, so I followed him inside. Chapter 6. Selena's face was rosy as ever, no different from a perfectly healthy person. But the moment she saw me, she conveniently collapsed into Luis's arms. She looked at me with a fragile voice. Sister-in-law, you're not mad at me, right? I just feel really awful, and besides Luis, I don't know anyone else I can rely on. I gave her a calm smile. Why would I be? Of course you should be taken care of. Hurry to the hospital, though, before it's too late. That clearly didn't sit well with Selena. But before she could speak, Luis exploded first. Alicia, don't talk like that. Selena's already not feeling well. Don't make it worse for her. See? A dog can't stop eating crap. No matter how sincere the promises, in front of Selena, they crumble like ash. But I didn't care anymore. I turned to open the door, but Luis grabbed me by the arm. Apologize to Selena, or she'll get worse. Apologize? Why? What had I done wrong? I turned my face away, pulling out my keys to unlock the door, but Luis shoved me hard. I lost balance and stumbled to the ground. He clearly hadn't expected me to fall. For a moment, he froze, then suddenly remembered something and rushed to help me. But just as his hands were about to touch me, Selena burst into tears. She looked up at Luis, full of grievance. Luis, it hurts. Can you hold me first? Her soft, needy tone made Luis frown in frustration. The air instantly froze, but I didn't feel sad. Not at all. What surprised me was Luis suddenly stepping away from Selena. Stop it, okay? Alicia's still pregnant. When he placed his hands around my waist, I felt nothing but disgust. I shoved him off me. Still, Luis pressed on. We need to go to the hospital. What if the baby got hurt? I spoke with quiet, controlled clarity. Luis, there's no baby anymore. Chapter 7. I had imagined this moment countless times. How to tell Luis, what words to use, what tone, how to make him understand. But I never imagined it would be like this. There was a flash of disbelief in Luis's eyes. He grabbed my hand, eyes reddening. No way. Alicia, you're lying to me, right? Even as he said it, Luis laughed bitterly because he knew I had never lied to him, and I would never joke about something like this. This child was a beautiful surprise, the best gift life had ever given me. When I first told Luis I was pregnant, he was overjoyed. He couldn't sleep that night. I thought, just for that brief moment, he truly felt happy to become a father. But after that night, all his attention shifted to Selena. Selena has a fever. She needs someone to take care of her. You're not having morning sickness. You're stronger than she is. But he forgot what the doctor warned us. With a septate uterus, the first trimester carries a high risk of miscarriage. I started showing signs of bleeding. Luis brushed it off as a normal symptom. He even thought it meant I was having a boy. My mom bled when she had me too. And look, I turned out just fine. But now? The baby is gone. I didn't want to fight. I just wanted to end this gracefully. Let these two doomed lovers be together. I'm not lying. It was a threatened miscarriage. The baby was already gone. The day you left me at the hospital. After I spoke. I didn't look at Luis again, but I caught a glimpse of Selina's smile. Faint, fleeting, as if she realized I saw it. She quickly wiped it away. Sister-in-law, you won't blame me, right? That little one's in heaven now. He'll be reborn into a better life next time. Thanks for the blessing. As long as he doesn't reincarnate into your womb, we're good. Selina's face turned dark instantly, but I didn't want to give that scummy couple any more chances to tangle with me. So I turned and walked into the house. Too much of my youth had been wasted on Luis. Rather than continuing to fight, I decided to let go. If he cared that much about Selina, then fine, I'd let him give the rest of his life to her. I had already planned out my Silk Road trip in detail and booked tickets for next week. I could have left earlier, but I still had one important thing to handle. Besides, the destination was currently rainy for days, so I had no choice but to wait for next week's flight. When Luis returned, I was sitting on the couch watching TV. I didn't even notice he was soaked to the bone from the rain. Alicia, he said hoarsely, turning off the TV without asking. I finally looked up at him. Rain still dripped from his hair. His eyes red-rimmed, something rare for him. Something I'd never seen. Don't you have anything to say? He looked at me with hope in his eyes, but I genuinely had nothing to say. I just shook my head. Why didn't you tell me? We're adults, how could you be so unclear about a pregnancy? Wasn't that my child too? So he was mad about the baby, blaming me for it. Hadn't I made myself clear enough? I didn't want to waste my breath arguing. I didn't want him to believe the loss was somehow my fault. So I handed him the prenatal test results, black and white. Plain as day. It would save us a lot of unnecessary drama and finally lay everything bare. Luis's hands trembled as he held the report. His voice was still full of denial. This can't be true. I said, Luis, Mr. Big Boss. He used to like it when I called him that in front of his colleagues. It had been a long time since I'd said it. As you said, we're adults. People change with time. And so do situations. I didn't want this to happen either. But some things, once they happen, are beyond our control. I paused before continuing. From now on, I won't argue with you about anything. I won't follow you around like a little shadow anymore. I'll give you the life you want, on one condition. That we let each other go. Luis gripped the report tighter and tighter. What do you mean? You're still angry because I sent Selina off earlier, aren't you? He was anxious. Alicia, I told you, Selina and I are just friends. Yes, I admit, I used to like her. But that was in the past. Everyone knows that, right? Everyone knows. Everyone knows about the unique, special care he always gave to Selina. I let out a slow breath. I already told you. I'm not mad about Selina. I just think it's time to reconsider our relationship. For both you and me. That might be the best choice. No, he said. I don't agree. Chapter 8. Luis was firm. His attitude reminded me of that time, when I asked him to introduce me as his wife in front of his colleagues. Back then, he was just as resolute. This is the office, not our private world. But how did he introduce Selina? This is my childhood sweetheart, the only one I truly acknowledge. To this day, people at the company still don't know who Luis's real wife is. I calmly placed the divorce papers in front of him. Just sign it. No need to make it complicated. Luis's eyes turned red as he clutched my hand. Alicia, how can you be so heartless? Is your heart made of stone? I turned away, not wanting to look at him again. Even a single glance or word would only lead to more entanglement. But Luis grew more agitated. Alicia, you can't even look at me now? His veiny hand gripped me so tightly it hurt, as if he was trying to find some trace of reluctance in my eyes. But I was more resolute than ever. I pried his hand off, and walked away without hesitation. If we continued living under the same roof, it would only fuel his false hope. I packed a few clothes, ignored whatever else Luis was saying, and took a cab to Fiona's place. When she heard I was getting divorced, Fiona was shocked, but there was a flicker of excitement in her eyes. She had warned me long ago. Back when Selena first reappeared. Alicia, you can't be too naive. Luis is a CEO of a listed company. And Selena? With their history? It's hard to believe nothing would rekindle. But back then, I didn't care. I was convinced Luis loved me, that I was the only one in his heart, that he'd never leave me. After everything that happened, I had no choice but to admit, Fiona was right. Now I'm just waiting for him to sign. Once the paperwork's done, I'll finally be free to live life on my own terms. Does he know about the baby? I nodded. Good. A scumbag like him deserves a woman like her, even if they both dropped dead. I wouldn't pity them. That night, at Fiona's place, my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Each notification was from Luis. His missed calls, his unread messages. I didn't reply, so he kept calling over and over. Maybe people only know how to regret after they've truly lost something, but I didn't care. I turned my phone off and slept soundly through the night. The next morning, as I stepped out, I saw Luis's car from a distance. He stood there, looking defeated, a small mountain of cigarette butts piling at his feet. When he saw me, he rushed over, holding my favorite soup dumplings in his hands. Alicia, I figured you haven't had breakfast yet. His voice was unusually gentle. I looked him over. The dark circles under his eyes said he hadn't slept all night. No need, I already ate. He pulled out a hot water bottle. It's getting cold. Take this when you're out. That was rare. I remembered when I had menstrual cramps. We always kept warm water bottles at home, but somehow, they always ended up with Selena. No need. I bought a new one. Luis's smile faded. He slowly pulled his hand back, clutching the bottle tightly. I didn't want to waste time. If you've signed the papers, please let me know soon. Luis swallowed hard. Sadness was written all over his face. Do we really have to do this? I didn't answer, just nodded. The early sunlight cast long shadows at our feet, two arcs, separate and curving away from each other. Like us. Luis opened his mouth, trying to speak, but the ringtone cut in before he could say a word. He looked at the screen, then back at me. After a few seconds of hesitation, he hung up. I didn't need to ask. It was from Selena. It looked like bad timing, but for me, it was perfect timing. The ringtone kept cutting the silence. I said, if you've got something to handle, go ahead. Luis refused. Let me drive you. No need. You've got work. I'll call a cab. It's nothing urgent. I'll take you. His tone was so unfamiliar. I wondered if he was still the same Luis. But it was early, and we were in the suburbs. Cabs were hard to get, so I got in his car. It still smelled like lavender. Out of habit, I slid into the back seat. Luis suddenly stopped me. Sit in the front. I was stunned. He never let me sit in the front before. He always said, the passenger seat isn't safe. The back is more secure. I believed him. But later, I saw him place Selena in the passenger seat. He even put a cushion there. It's colder in the back. The front is warmer. He had me sit in the icy back seat. That day, my heart truly ached. I asked him afterward, didn't you say the passenger seat wasn't safe? Why does Selena get to sit there? Seems like the danger isn't the road. It's who gets the privilege. Luis was furious. Alicia, are you crazy? You're fussing over a seat? Where someone sits doesn't matter. Selena's been with me since we were kids. She's frail. Of course I take better care of her. You get carsick. What's wrong with sitting in the back? This time, I didn't argue. I quietly sat in the back seat. We barely spoke the whole ride. The only sound was his phone, ringing again and again. His hands on the steering wheel were restless. It was as if ants were crawling under his skin. I smiled, then asked him to stop the car by the curb. I lied, said I had arrived, and watched him speed away like a madman, disappearing down the street. Chapter 9. I went to the hospital for a checkup. Once I confirmed that my body had recovered well, I headed back home. I packed everything that belonged to me, big or small. I left nothing behind, except for one thing, the diamond ring on my finger. I took it off and placed it right in the middle of the living room, where it was impossible to miss. Just as I finished packing, I got a WeChat message from Selena. It was a photo, Luis holding her in his arms, lulling her to sleep. The caption read, "Luis's body is so warm, and he loves my warmth too." I chuckled. Perfect timing. I was just worried Luis wouldn't sign the papers. Without a second thought, I replied, "Wishing you a long and happy life together." That summed up everything. I moved all my luggage to Fiona's place and officially filed for divorce in court. According to Luis's behavior, he had already contributed to the breakdown of our marriage, and my 2-year Silk Road shoot? That also counted as a 2-year separation. So even if he didn't sign, we could still divorce legally. Chapter 10. That night, Luis sent me another message. "Alicia, I miss you. Can you come down so we can talk?" But what's left to talk about? Juggling both plates and still reaching for the pot. Doesn't he ever get tired? I didn't reply, so he started calling from downstairs. His voice echoed through the neighborhood, irritating the residents. I had no choice. I braced myself and went down. Before I left, Fiona shoved a can of pepper spray in my pocket. She said she'd be watching from upstairs, and if Luis tried anything funny, she'd be the first to come down and slice him. I shook my head, but after everything, this time, I listened to her. The October wind was biting. I wrapped myself in a thick coat and saw Luis standing under the street lamp, just a thin shirt on, his hair glowing under the dim light. His eyes looked deeper than ever. The moment he saw me, he lit up like a child offered candy. He ran over in a flash. "Alicia, you finally agreed to see me." I didn't even raise my head. "What is it?" He rubbed his hands together, his breath turning white in the cold. "Come back home with me, okay? I already talked to Selena. We'll draw clear boundaries. We won't mess around like before." I stifled a laugh. "Whatever relationship you two have isn't my concern. Friends looking after each other. That's perfectly normal. I'm not that petty, but you clearly care. You're avoiding me, not coming home, ignoring my calls. I'm seriously worried." He gripped my shoulders. "Alicia, let's not separate, okay? I've already torn up the divorce agreement. Let's start over." He spoke with trembling hands and a serious tone, but I didn't hear a single word. I gently pushed his hand away. "What about Selena? If you're not there, what will she do? She can see a doctor. I'm not the only one in this world. You know." How ironic. If he had said that to me just a month ago, I would have thrown myself into his arms, weeping with joy. But now? "Take good care of Selena. Without you, she might just die." My calm words exploded like a grenade in the cold, silent night of October, adding another layer of frost to the air. Luis cried. It was the first time I'd ever seen him cry because of me. No, maybe it wasn't because of me. Maybe it was just regret, or the idea of losing something he once owned. Men are often ruled by pride, dependency, or habit. I turned and walked away, not looking back, but he shouted like a madman behind me. "I won't let you leave me." Chapter 11. Back in my room, I sent Selena a message, Luis's photo standing downstairs. It wasn't a provocation. I just wanted her to call him back home. In his current state, I was genuinely worried he'd spend another night down there. If he delayed my flight tomorrow, I'd be furious. Selena replied quickly, even through the screen. I could smell the jealousy in her tone. "Thanks for the reminder." I turned off the lights. Only after confirming Luis left, likely after receiving her call, did I finally fall asleep at ease. The next morning, I headed out with Fiona. We wandered the mall until noon, and my phone wouldn't stop ringing. I didn't check it once. I knew it was Luis. Before leaving, I'd already told security, if someone asks for Alicia, tell him she's not here. And just like that, I boarded my flight to the Silk Road. Phone off. By evening, when I turned it back on, it lagged from the flood of missed calls and messages, all from Luis. After some time, a single large message remained on screen. Alicia. I'm sorry. I didn't respond. I hit delete. To me, that message was no different than spam, taking up storage and wasting space. I threw myself into the Silk Road filming project. From the Mogao caves to the desert wonders, across the Gobi Plains, I found joy in the art of photography, real joy. I met many Tibetan friends and fellow photography enthusiasts. Together, we completed a full shoot of the Heshi corridor. During that time, I nearly forgot Luis ever existed. With a new SIM card and a deleted WeChat account, I had no way of receiving updates about him. Only occasionally, when I called Fiona. Did I hear anything? Alicia, you won't believe this, she said once. Laughing, Selena played Luis. She had a boyfriend abroad, and only returned because of a fight. When her boyfriend found out about her and Luis, he beat Luis straight into the hospital. Isn't that delicious? Yes, that was the most satisfying piece of news I'd heard since leaving. Fiona also told me that Luis had camped out downstairs at her apartment for 3 days and nights, begging just to see me. When he finally realized I was gone, he collapsed in his car, sobbing like a broken man. If it hadn't been for a neighbor calling the cops, he might have been mistaken for a homeless lunatic. I only smiled faintly. Once upon a time, everything about him felt like my whole world. Now, he's just someone I used to know. Chapter 12. 2 years later, I completed the Silk Road project as planned, and, as expected, the court ruled in my favor. Luis and I split our assets 50-50. Meanwhile, my photography work made a huge splash in the industry. At the exhibition, I stood still in front of my favorite piece, a photo taken in the Heshi corridor. Suddenly, a familiar face appeared in the glass reflection. I looked closer. It didn't look like Luis, but it was Luis. His hair was a mess, his face worn and rough, no trace of the elegance he once carried. When he saw me, his eyes darted away, but I caught the shimmer of tears. Fiona nudged my arm. Selena ran off with another man. She cleaned out his accounts. He's basically homeless now. I said nothing. Then Fiona jumped in front of me, alarmed. Wait, don't tell me you're feeling soft. You're not actually thinking of taking him back, are you? I laughed and gave her a light push. What are you thinking? The next Silk Road trip is coming up. I'll be leaving again soon. I turned to look at the glass one last time. All that remained was a distant, lonely silhouette, walking away.